Hello out there. This is Pamela Fagan Hutchins. We are in the countdown to the release of Snaggletooth, which is, as of the time of recording this video, 1 week away. And if you're watching this later, it's already out. Yay for that. And today we're talking about Scapegoat, which was number 4 in the series. And we have a special chitty chat guest today, and it's the very pretty woman who literally looks like my youngest daughter on I get this confused when I'm on video. That way. I use my left hand for you to be on your right. It's really hard to do video. Mom and I, this is my mother, Susie Fagan. Say hi, Mama.
Hi, Mama.
We've spent the first few minutes just trying to make sure that her background's good and that she looks beautiful. And I've already been trying to figure out right and left and can't do it. So you raised a rocket scientist. Way to go, Mom. So Mom is super excited about doing video. Not. Yeah, really, Pamela. But it's funny because you really are the extrovert of the family. You're the social creature of all of us.
Ugh.
Yeah. Yes, you are. So the question that we're going to cover today is, like I said, it's about Scapegoat. And the one that the readers are answering is Susanne Flint holds back and lets Patrick have his way at the beginning of Scapegoat. At what point do you see her moxie and gumption take over? And so that's the question they're answering. But we're going to build up a little bit slower to that, because as is no surprise to anyone out there, I based these characters on our family. So Susanne Flint meets Susie Fagan. Susie Fagan meets Susanne Flint. You look a lot alike. And of course, you have a great part in Susanne. I'd say that as I write the books, she's the one that I have the most fun with every book, taking her forward another leap and another leap to the woman that I think of when I think of my mom. So we're going to start, Mama Dearest, by talking about your adventurous side, because like Susanne in the books, my mommy is married to a guy with a really single-minded focus. He likes to do what he likes to do. He likes his people along when he does it. And his people starts with my mom. You guys were how old when you got married?
18.
18.
Your dad was 19. I was 18.
And not yet graduated from high school, as I recall.
Correct.
Without permission, as I recall.
Well, we asked and they said no.
So the first adventure was running away to Mexico and getting married, and not even
living to tell about it.
Yeah, living to tell. I wouldn't have lived to tell if I'd done that.
No, you wouldn't.
But anyway, so Mom and Dad got married when they were really young. They've always been super, super adventurous. And in fact, there's one more question I'm going to spring on you that I didn't warn you about, and that is, who asked who out first?
Kim out, and you know that. I asked him to a Girl Scout party last day of my 8th grade year. He had just finished the 9th grade, and he went. So
I think it's so cute. And what I especially love about that is, as this book being written set in the 70s and thinking of it historically and thinking about the difference of women's roles as we've progressed through the years, I love that my little mom asked my dad out first. I just think that is amazingly cute and so like the two of you. He may be the pushy one, but when you know what you want, by golly,
I go after it.
You go after it. So anyway, you're married to this adventurous guy, and in real life, you've said yes to a lot of adventures. And I wanted to know if you had any favorites out of the many crazy things he's talked you into doing.
Well, we climbed Mount Kilimanjaro in Africa, and we did that. I did that because I had always wanted to go on an African safari, and he was a hiker. I went along. I was not an adventurous hiker. I just went with him, but he asked if I wanted to go on a safari, and I said I would love to go on a safari. So that when he said, I'm going to sign us up for that. Okay. And it was 25 years ago. And unbeknownst to me, the first part of the safari was a strenuous hike up Mount Kilimanjaro, and not on a regular route. I mean, it was out in the boonies, hiking in the woods. And anyway, up to 19,500 feet, which then took training to do. And I had some issues training. I fell off a bicycle and had stitches in my arm. And then I tried rollerblading and I fell and had knee surgery. And I'm not athletic, but I made it. And
it's amazing.
It was wonderful to be able to say you've done that and you've pushed yourself that hard. I will never be that dirty again. You don't bathe for a week, and you've hiked and you've hiked and you've hiked and you've hiked and you have BO, and it was just horrible.
You know, when people think of my mother, a lot of them think of that she's always put together. She always looks really good. You usually have on your makeup. You do your hair. You apologize if you come down to breakfast and you haven't. And you went basically a week, or not quite a week, but nearly, without a shower, under strenuous effort, and without having any ugly mood swings.
No, I had some ugly mood swings, but they were never in front of other people. They were in the tent after we would get. I said, I'm not eating that in the morning. I'm not eating that stir-fried stuff in the morning. He goes, Susie, you are going to eat that stuff. You have to eat. You know, we eat to live. We don't live to eat. You know how it goes. And so I would eat the stuff and then I would hike. But it was wonderful. I'm so glad we did it. We took another adventurous trip to Italy and the Dolomites. It wasn't near as hard. We hiked hut to hut. My first experience of tinkling in a hole in the ground, but that's not true. I've tinkled in a lot of outside places, but not a hole in the ground in a building.
Not what I thought you'd talk about today, but I am so glad you brought that up. But no, that is part of adventuring, is that you have to take care of what you have to take care of. So you have done a ton of adventurous stuff. Is there anything that you've said no to when he's tried to rope you into it?
Well, he used to want to get a log cabin and move to Alaska. And I absolutely said, you're on your own. You're there.
Good for you.
Since he would never have gone by himself, so we were safe.
Yeah, thank you for doing that. I mean, Alaska would have been great, but a log cabin out in the middle of nowhere. Gosh, that sounds like my life now. But anyway, thank you for not having that as my teenage years. You just think I was bad. I would have really been happy with you.
You would have rebelled big time.
Oh my goodness. What adventures do you wish you'd said no to because you were pushed a little hard, or do you not regret any of them?
Well, as you know, I'm not crazy about horses. So I kind of got pushed into having a horse. I've never had an accident on a horse, but Paul has and Peter has. You have never had a serious accident, but they don't respond to please and thank you. And I would much rather be in a motorized vehicle. So we have a side-by-side and we go wherever we want to go, and he rides horses with y'all.
That's right. And, you know, and to your credit, you have had my brother be seriously injured right in front of you on a horse, and you had to deal with it. And everybody met Paul last week, and all the problems he has now, I'm sure, stem from that moment.
Exactly.
So when I was writing these books originally, and I'm sure you and Dad were thinking, that's cute, don't do that. That's cute, don't do that. But when I first started doing these, and I was wrestling with how to make them interesting stories at the same time as I really wanted them to be an homage to the real people that they were based on, I started with Susanne at a place in development where I originally got some pushback. I had a reader that pushed back on me that she wasn't strong enough and switched back, to which I very politely said, read through to the end of the book. She does quite well by the end of the book. But in your real life, you married really young, as we talked about. You married really young and without permission. And so as a very young woman married to a strong male personality in the 1960s, do you feel like that you were at the very start of your relationship the same strong, equally feisty, not be pushed around partner as you are now, or did you grow
No,
into that?
I grew into that.
Yeah.
I was young. I didn't, no, I grew into that. And
That's
I'm
really
not pushy now. You say I'm pushy. I'm not pushy.
stubborn.
Stubborn.
You're stubborn. When you reach your point where you've had it,
We're done.
we're done. And we're not going to make a scene about that up front or anything, but we are done when we're done. No, you actually are in a household of three loudmouths. I mean, pushy, loudmouth individuals. And most of the time, you're a lot nicer than the rest of us. You just reach your point where you've had it.
And then I'm done.
I'm done. And everybody says, whoa, we are done.
His mama in a padded room.
Yeah, that's right. We all back away very carefully. But that's a good thing because everybody needs their point of not being pushed around anymore. And that's really my memory of you growing up too, because you had us so young. You had me when you were 19, I guess.
Uh-huh.
I always thought that was the coolest thing in the world to have really young parents. And I remember you changing as the years went by, that you were better and better at stating your mind, putting your foot down, throwing a coffee cup if you needed to, whatever it took to get somebody's attention. I said no.
2 times. I've only thrown 2 coffee cups, and both times whoever was in the room deserved it, and I never threw them at an individual, just at the sink.
Oh, that made lasting impressions on me. A woman has to have her limits.
That's right.
You have to be heard, right? One of the things too that I remember from being a teenager, and this is in my bratty years, so I can't, it's amazing I remember anything then except that which was about myself, a little self-absorbed at that age, but is that you went to work with Dad at the clinic. And I remember asking you, why are you doing this? And do you remember what you told me, how you explained your role at the clinic?
I think they liked me there because if there was ever an issue, if they ever disagreed with anything he thought or wanted to do, they came to me. And I would just go in his office and politely shut the door. And we would talk, and either it would be resolved in his favor or the clinic's favor, whoever felt the strongest. But yeah, they thought it was pretty neat that they had someone on their side.
You were like a union organizer or something.
Uh-huh.
But he can be a scary individual. He can be intimidating because he's so sure of himself that it's hard for other people to approach him. But I don't ever remember you being scared of him. I remember you.
Oh gosh, no.
You letting him be more. You used to give in more than you did as years went by, but never scared of him. Right up in the face of the bear. And that really kind of brings us to Scapegoat, which you told me you reread it this weekend after I
did. I reread it. Uh-huh.
Did you like it the second time?
Do what?
Go ahead.
I loved it more. I loved it more the second time. Actually, it was the third time, but I did. I picked up different things. I picked up the correlation between, for instance, Patrick, your dad, and the bighorn sheep. They're fierce, but they stay as a family, whereas a lot of wild animals don't. They protect each other, and they go together, and that's the way Patrick Flint and Peter Fagan are.
It's interesting that you guys had that conversation this weekend because I've never thought about that, but it is true. And I remember when Dad was into climbing the 7 summits and climbed Aconcagua and was gone for a month. And I remember him coming back, and we're in the parking lot at Uncle Julio's in Fort Worth, and you're both crying, and him basically saying, I don't want to do this anymore. And I don't want to be away from you. I don't want to be away from my family. That's not that was important, but it's not what's most important. Yeah. And it was really, it was bighorn sheepish, wasn't it?
No, it's bighorn sheepish. But we had never been apart that long. And it was, I think he probably worried about me, and I worried about him, and you couldn't talk. It's not like you can pick up a cell phone now. So yeah.
Exactly.
But one funny thing about that, when he was training for Aconcagua, which he everything he does, if it's flying, if it's doctoring, it's whatever, he is going to be the hardest worker. And he would get up every morning before he'd go to work and put on his 75-pound pack and head off and go walk 5 miles. Well, one morning, just at daybreak, he was coming back home up the driveway, and we live in the country, and somebody passed and called the police and said there is some kind of weird person walking up the driveway of that particular house. And the police came and they said, we have a sighting of a weird looking person coming up the driveway without a pack on. We need to alert you. I said, just my husband. It's okay.
Oh,
but
my
that's
God.
the way he does. I mean, it's
Yeah.
just does everything. I call it to the extreme, but it's not really the.
No, it's pretty extreme. I mean, if it's like we're talking about that he wants his family with him on these adventures, the real life version of Patrick Peter. And he's got it in his mind. It's going to be so much fun. And we're going to do this and we're going to reach this milestone. And it's always a little faster than anyone wants to go, a little further than anyone wants to go. And what is it? His famous saying, it's only uphill half the time. So we do laugh about him. But Mom, as she says, she's not athletic, but she's always just trucking along beside him. So her screen's frozen up for a second. She may be able to hear me. Luckily, it froze on a very pretty picture of her. So she'll be happy with how that looks later. We'll see if it rebounds. And I'll segue a little bit with where we are now taking the exploration of the Muse character for Susanne. Hold on, let me text her and tell her to get back on. Mom, rejoin the link. There you go. The beauty of doing all of these wonderful things that we do these days from home studios, home whatever. So while she's reconnecting, so we get to the point where with her as a muse, we get to Scapegoat. And with Scapegoat, we have, of course, the river trip. And the river trip starts with Patrick absolutely determined that he's taking his family to the Tucadika River in western Wyoming and the Gros Ventre Wilderness, and he's going to take them on this adventure. His brother and his new sister-in-law are coming, and his mom and dad, who are still young enough sort of to enjoy it. I don't know if they were ever young enough / as adventurous as he is, but he is by golly going to do this. And then they are met with the surprise of his brother bringing his 7 kids. Now, in real life, he does have a brother that's 11 months younger, and that brother is married to the most wonderful woman in the world, who we call Susie too, because her name is also Susie Fagan, like my mother's. And between them, they do have 7 kids. This actually never happened where they showed up and pushed Patrick's buttons in this way. But I have long since warned family members that when it comes to the Patrick Flint book, if they accidentally make an appearance, that their role is to push Patrick's buttons, to a lesser extent Suzanne's, but definitely Patrick's. And that then anything that they do is going to be about pushing the buttons of that character. Okay, let me check on Mom real quick and see if she's telling me that she's coming in. Come on, Mom, you can do it. All right. So while I'll finish up what I was going to talk about, because I'm not sure if she's going to get back on or not. But is she not the cutest thing you've ever seen in your life? Try growing up with everyone loving your mother just to distraction. My mom was a substitute teacher and a teacher for most of my growing up years. So one of my strong memories of my mom in talking about the ways in which I remember her and her growing strength was that she had me so young and my brother so young that she didn't finish college. She was in college, but it just kept getting pushed aside because she was having to take care of everything else. So I remember living in Wyoming, and she was driving 45 minutes or about 45 miles to classes at Sheridan College several times a week, no matter what the weather. And it gets really extreme up here, and pushing through it. And she would tape record her lectures the professor talking, and then listen to them again on the way home and again on the way back to school. And that's how she studied, was she would listen to the lecture 3 times because she didn't have time to study when she got home. And I thought that was super smart and cool. So anyway, when we get to Scapegoat, we've got Susanne needing to assert herself and say, Patrick, this is a bad idea. Don't take all these kids on this adventure you had planned. It's too much for 7 kids. It's too much for your parents. But we've also got a woman who doesn't, based on the way she's raised, she doesn't make a scene in front of other people. And so in Scapegoat, she's trying to talk to him on his own. He's not listening until finally they reach the point where even her mother-in-law, who's married to an older and worse version of Patrick than Patrick is Petey, quit snoring, is looking at her like, aren't you going to do something? That she finally puts her foot down, straighten these glasses, puts her foot down and says, absolutely not. Totally my mother in real life, totally how she would have handled it. And then that leads us into Snaggletooth, where she ends up being, spoiler alert, a real badass. So way to go, Susanne. So as we were talking online before I got on about her excitement about doing video, I swear to you, she's excited. This connection broke down. We were talking about how insufferable that I was as a teenager, and some of the conversations we had where I was trying to explain the way the world was, and I was trying to explain how to be a strong woman to my mother, who had gotten married young, raised these kids, still managed to go through school, driving 50 miles each way to class through snow, and tape recording lectures so she could listen to them over and over. And I was trying to tell her how to be a strong woman. And isn't that rich? But I guess we all go through it, where we're those years of our life where we think we're smarter than we are. And then we finally realize, golly, my parents were right. And I definitely realized that with my mom. So, here she is in time to, I'm adding you. There you go. Oh, you changed locations on us too.
I went searching for the internet.
Yeah. Well, that's happened to me when we were living at your place last year. Your internet is just barely good enough to support really good streaming video. So anyway, I was just talking about some of the stuff that we were going to talk about. And I'd ended by saying my mother was right. You missed that glorious moment where I basically went back.
You said I was right about something?
You were right.
Oh my gosh.
Well, not about everything. About most things.
Thank you, darling.
Well, and one of the things too that's been a challenge about writing these books, it's not a challenge to write them in the sense that I absolutely know the characters. Mom, your hair looks cute. You're okay. You're like me with my glasses. I do this the entire time on video. But for me, the hard thing is that because I do know the real people, it's sometimes hard to think of things to do to make tension between the characters because you've been married for a couple of years. Let's see. A few, and been happy the whole time. And, you know, how do you create drama out of that? And I think, no, there's plenty of drama still.
Always drama.
There's always some drama going on. But while it might be the tension that turns the pages, I still wanted to be able to honor the type of relationship that you guys have. I've always felt like you guys were the most in love people that I've ever known, and still do. I mean, they hold hands even when she's not throwing coffee cups, right, Mama? And
right.
The 2 times in your life you've done it. And so, you know, I now jokingly tell people, I always thought you were the 2 most in love people I knew. Now you come in second to Eric and me, but still, that's pretty dang good. That's pretty.
We're number 1.
But honestly, you were right about a lot of things I didn't give you credit for. A lot of them. And I do want to thank you that you didn't kill me, and that you keep the love and the respect and the partnership that you and Dad have alive, and that you teach your kids what that looks like. Because I don't know. I mean, watching Paul on video with me the other day, I'm sure that you thought he's a pretty decent human being. I raised that boy. And it's nice.
I was on my knees praying about what he would say.
Oh my God. So I didn't want to embarrass him when we were on there, but one of his most famous turns of phrase, he was,
oh my gosh,
they had an embedded journalist with them, one of his tours in Afghanistan. And this journalists did a documentary on his squadron. And then they also had journalists that would interview people for Nightline and, all these other shows. And I don't remember what it was for, but someone asked Paul what he liked about being a Cobra pilot, which if you watch that video, he's not afraid to say, because you get to blow things up. But he said it's like a cold shot of urine. Was that what? Yeah. And all of us just sat there and went, what were that even mean? I don't think he can explain it to this day. But anyway,
there's a lot about Marines you can't explain.
And they used that in the embedded documentary, and we had to see over and over, cold shot of urine. So anyway, I didn't bring that up with him. But other than that, you look at the kids and you think, that's pretty awesome. He turned out pretty okay. And I like to think that I'm getting there too. So thank you.
We've been so blessed. Both of our kids are happily married and happy in their jobs. And, you get to ride, he gets to fly. Our grandchildren just are the highlight of our lives. And we're very blessed.
Well, it doesn't come by accident. You did good stuff. So now you guys have met in real life, the inspiration, the muse behind Susanne in the books. And I've got to make Susanne in the books feistier if I want to make her really exactly like you. I need her behind closed doors to really get to throw something. I want her to throw something. That's what I'm thinking. Well, you're going to love the story I used to start Snaggletooth. I started Snaggletooth, Stag Party. I started it a few days ago. I've been searching for more quirky, dad pushing it too far stories to start books with, and I found one. And now I'm thinking there's going to be one that starts with that backpacking scene with the police rousting him. I'd forgotten completely about that, and that's perfect. Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, you guys. Thanks, Mama. Thanks, everybody.
Love you, darling.
Love you too. Bye, everyone. Now I've got to find the off button. So just ignore us while I look for that. Bye-bye.
Bye.